Hello and welcome to the Agency Download Podcast, where we have real conversations about the advertising and marketing industry. I'm your host, James Williams, and today I'm joined by TK Douglas, founder of Fidelis Creative. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh man, great to be here. Are you kidding me?
Awesome. Right on. Well, you guys also started a podcast just recently. So just want to give you a huge shout out and congrats about starting that. I know you got a bunch of episodes coming up, but do you want to just quickly just share kind of premise here as a podcast and kind of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's called 9B, and there's 9Bs that are in this thing that I have not memorized, but it's something like it's bloviating bros in Bryan, Texas, drinking beer, bourbon, and Boulevardier, talking about business. I think maybe I got 9 in there.
You got quite a few bees in there
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah.
It's with my co-founder and brother and our COO also. So we got some guys who are just veterans in the industry, and then some guys that are like actively running and working in the industry as well. So it's pretty cool.
Good. I think you get a really good mix in between of working in your business and working on your business. I think
Yeah, that's right.
both those different angles, perspectives are helpful, matter on people listening of where they're at in their kind of career path, whether in the middle of kind of building their career or a veteran that's built an agency and is working on continuing kind of growth strategies.
It's true. It's true that and it would be great if we stayed on topic just as well as you just did, but we're we're all over the place. So we got two guys who love history, and then I just love business. So it spans AI and marketing and operations, and it also goes into church and history and all over the place, man.
Yeah, I think that's what's so good about this format is it's really not even about staying on topic or like just being like too rigid in a system. This
Right.
isn't a TV 3 minute segment where we got to get four different points across. It's like have a real authentic conversation, and that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
Specifically, just I just like talking about the advertising marketing industry, and
Yeah.
that's why I like having different conversations with unique people from all over the country. So
Yeah. At
yeah,
the end of the
looking
day,
forward
it's
to it.
just about living life and having fun with it too.
Yeah, no doubt. So, would love to just get kind of a background, your kind of like origin story. Like, how'd you get into advertising marketing? How'd you start your agency?
Yeah.
Kind of what got you started? I always love origin stories, how people got involved or started.
Well, that's pretty easy. So I got married to a very pretty girl, and we started a business like 3 months after getting married. And our engagement was also real short, and we actually only even went on 2 dates before I asked her to marry me. So we were making some fast decisions in those days, and we started a media company. We started doing weddings and babies and just anything anybody could figure out for us. That went really well. I learned how to build brand through that. I learned how to take care of people and clients and communicate well. And we got into our second kid, and my wife says, "Hey, we're giving up every Saturday this year. So we got to figure something out." So I started kind of translating all of that energy into commercial, started doing commercial photography, a lot of headshots, a lot of product photography. Did that for a number of years. It went really well as well. And started asking the question why when it came to why are you having me do this photography stuff? What are you hoping it does for you? Um, which was just, I didn't even know it at the time, but was this massive springboard into marketing and brand and design. Because I quickly learned that nobody in business does something without at least a hope of it performing some sort of task. And that's really ultimately how I got into it, was just this constant pursuit of why are you doing this? And then just trying to solve people's problems.
Yeah, I think that's the foundation of every good business is figuring out solutions and being curious about what people really need. Like that's the value exchange is somebody's got a problem and you have a solution to fulfill it or
Yeah.
figure out a way to fill it out.
Yeah.
That and fast forward where you guys at now, what's kind of your guys' like core services, capabilities? Like what do you guys feel you guys are like really strengths are within your business?
Yeah. So physically, we're in College Station, Texas, right across the street from Kyle Field at Texas A&M University. Giggle Maggies. And I would say that we are a full service creative agency, and so what that means is we supply every service from name your company, take you through legal or product line, whatever it is. We do a lot of websites. We're very talented. The thing we love the most is branding and brand positioning. And so we help companies figure out what their brand position ought to be. We do a lot of websites. We do a lot of media, of course. And then ultimately we're looking at campaigning for those companies and managing their marketing budgets I've had clients for 10 years now where we're just constantly changing and iterating, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. As the market and the tools change, we have to change with it. And I've been very blessed to have clients who understand all those dynamics. And so, when it comes to specialty, we're not specialized in any of those tools or specialized in any of those singular verticals. What we are really good at is putting it all together, and making it all make sense.
Yeah, I think the brand positioning thing is like the foundation, I think, of every really good brand strategy is like don't just try to execute off of individualized single tactics and chase something, but the brand positioning and strategy is the foundation of what a good marketing campaign is. I truly believe. What do you think? What's like the big difference between what you see out of like a really good brand positioning or strategy or versus like a bad brand positioning or strategy? Like what's the big like hurdles brands have to overcome?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I would say there's two answers. When it comes to a business and meeting goals, a business needs both long-term vision and also short-term wins. They need momentum, and cash is king. Cash flow matters, but your balance sheet also ultimately matters in the end. So this is how I talk to clients is like, hey, we're going to build that balance sheet, but we need to talk about like what are some things to like just catch momentum for you. So we're going to look at your transformation, but we're also going to look at momentum at the same time. So being able to kind of balance both of those things in the same moment, that's excruciatingly important, right? The other thing is I have seen businesses sacrifice the balance sheet and sacrifice their brand for the sake of short vision, short term thinking, short wins. And I get it. It's very difficult to like be patient and stomach the long term build when you're like in the squeeze, when you're hurting right then in the moment. But what that typically leads to is what we call Frankenstein. Companies will Frankenstein their brand all day. It's just like this patchwork monster walking the earth because they were just what's trending right now. What matters to my neighbor, and they'll just kind of start bolting on parts and pieces to their brand and to their marketing strategy. So I would say don't do that. That
Yeah.
that's
It's like a
that's the
route to
advice.
stagnation. It's like you can get some short-term wins, but it falls off. And obviously, you come from
Yeah.
the paid media world, and we see it all the times of the balance. What we always try to build out for brands, if it makes sense, is an awareness campaign and a direct response campaign, and making those work together. Because if you put
Yes.
all your eggs or all your budget and just try to scale up only your direct response channels, you don't have anything feeding the long-term, audience that you're building, then you're going to run out. That audience is going to tap out. I think there's some recent data reports showed that for any market at any time, on average, only 3% of the market is in the buyer stage.
Right.
And so everybody's fighting for 3% in the moment, but the brands that can focus on building relationship and connection with the other 97% of people that will eventually get into buyer mode, and you can build relationship and equity with those people through brand building and association, then those people will eventually get in the market, and then you're going to be at a higher ranking. The hard thing is waiting for that process, like you said.
Well,
That's the pain part.
to add to that, I would say the hard thing is not pissing off the other 97%
Yeah.
of people who are paying attention but are not yet ready to buy. So if you imagine you're standing in that stadium, if you're just talking to the 3% only, you're alienating your real audience.
Yeah.
And
Or
that's what
drive
it
them
looks like.
crazy with a message
Yeah.
that doesn't resonate or
Yeah.
is
It's
too
the
much
buy
of a
now, buy
need
now,
buy
buy
now.
now, buy
Yeah.
now thing that just, call it audience exhaustion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. What have you kind of seen as, that's obviously one big challenge, right? Is having that long-term focus, having that brand equity type message and building that brand positioning, balancing, your budget kind of sheet like you were talking about. What other kind of big current challenges you see kind of for brands that, that they need to overcome or need to deal with?
The one that comes to mind is noise. This current economy, this current market that we're in, the average consumer, I mean, there's a stat that we love to talk about in our brand workshops that there in the 1940s you would see maybe 1,500 brands in a day. Now you're seeing millions and you're not even aware of it. Um, and so there's just this higher noise. That's what I call it. I mean, it's like you'll hear people talk about like the sound and the frequency. Like the frequency is real loud, but you don't have enough signal going through it. So I think companies and brands ought to be very cognizant of clarity in their message and in their campaigning to help the consumer connect and just hear the truth through that thing, not just be more noise. And I get a lot of that is brands in kind of this like real amped up, high energy business owner or business operator is like, we got to do this. We got to be on TikTok. We got to be on Facebook. We got to do this and this and this and this. And it's like, hey, I need you to just like think like an arrow, not like a shotgun. Just what are you trying to communicate? And let's go talk about it. And let's talk about it in a way that represents you really well. People want to connect with you. They just have a hard time getting through all of the clutter.
Yeah. It's the focusing in on like what's the true message and value and benefit and really relaying it in terms of I think especially a lot of businesses, especially B2B businesses, I think have the big challenge for this. I think you might have even we were talking about this in our last call was a lot of businesses want to talk about themselves. Like consumer brands tend to be better about talking about the benefits for the
Yes.
consumer, but B2B businesses tend to have a challenge. They talk about more of like the features and the capabilities and the service and whatnot. But regardless of, I don't care if it's a B2B audience or B2C audience, they're all people. And people at the end of the day are tuned into
Yeah.
WIFFM, which is what's in it for me. And so I think all messaging needs to be responded in terms of what benefit is there for then consumer or the business, whoever you're trying to serve, it needs to be positioned into what's in it for them.
Yeah, we try to coach companies out of what we call speaking French, where it's we. If you go
Mm,
to their website and they say we do this and this and this, and we care about this, and you start to recognize all of your copy is focused around what you know, which is yourself. But what it really communicates, it's terrible, but it communicates you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know the audience. You don't know what they care about, where they hurt, where they hope. You don't know any of that stuff. And so it's very difficult to connect with somebody if you don't know them. And that's is a problem that the responsibility of solving that problem is on the company. It's on the brands.
yeah, absolutely. And they have to be the lead strategist, whether they're bringing in outside party and agency to help build that branding, positioning, messaging strategy, or doing it internally. It's like that comes from them. They're the source of it, and I have to build out from there, which I think is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge, especially as like I believe like AI is very helpful in a lot of ways, but I think also the downside of it is it's a cheat for low quality, just exporting, getting work out there and not being focused on brand and strategy. And I think something that might happen, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that if people don't continue to develop skills and strategy and understand like first principles of what marketing and advertising really is, then you won't have good strategy. Even if you use something like an AI, it will just be a regurgitation of content and information.
Yeah.
But like the strategy is what makes the difference, not the individual tactic. And I don't think you get that necessarily out of AI yet. It's people need to drive the strategy.
Yeah. You'll hear a lot. I'm sure somebody whoever your audience is going to start hearing this buzzword a lot, which is the great flattening, where they talk about AI is the great flattening. It levels the playing field and everybody can do everything all the time that everybody else was supposed to be able to do the last 20 years. I disagree with the premise. I actually think that what's going to be happening is probably more of a great dividing, where you have people who knew what matters and have wisdom separating even further. You're going to see a bigger gap between those people who have been practicing and have, like, they understand what they're trying to do. I think you're going to see them pull farther away, and brands who work with those kinds of people and have teams full of those kinds of people are going to pull further away from all of the startup world. They're going to pull further away from all of the, right now there's a ton of agencies that are just using this kind of momentum of excuse AI moment to cut the fat, so to speak. And I honestly think it's a mistake. I think people need training. I think they need teaching. And if you invest in people, it's going to pay off.
Yeah.
So sorry, I went two
No,
different directions on that one.
no, absolutely, and that kind of makes me think another premise. One of my theories, I think, may happen, very well could happen because of AI, because people aren't recruiting, training. Is that right now it's well known there's a huge shortage in the trades, right? In electricians and plumbers and iron workers, HVAC, across the board in trades. There's a huge shortage of people, and I think largely in part that's because universities did a lot better job of marketing and selling kids to go to university and get a higher education degree and not go into trades, as part of it. And so I think they have kind of a recruiting issue. But my point is going to be is that those trades are have a shortage, and then there's not going to be kind of the apprenticeship pass down of knowledge and skill set because you have a shortage. So in 10, 20, 30 years, we're going to have a shortage of those jobs and the skill set passed down. And in the advertising, marketing, and pretty much across the board in business, strategy and higher level wisdom thinking, if you don't pass that down to the next generation is going to come up, and there's going to be a huge skill set gap in work shortage of people that know how to do that type of strategic work.
Hmm.
And so I think we're going to essentially run into the same issues that the trades are having right now is going to hit the digital business
Yeah.
ecosystem.
The more white collar kinds of trades. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
there's actually a good book on this called, I think it's called the Skill Code, and it's about apprenticeship as a form of life. I've gotten about two chapters into it, so I'm not quoting it quite yet, but it's about this kind of a reality.
Yeah. I think the apprenticeship internship program, I think is huge. That's how I got started in an industry. And that would be my biggest encouragement. Anybody that's starting out, trying to get in an advertising marketing space is get an internship, get your feet wet, learn from people, go in the office, don't work from home,
That's right.
and try to be around other smart people that are working in the same industry. And you're going to learn how to work. Because I remember when I first started out, I didn't even know how to work. I didn't know how to do a 9 to 5 job. It sounded terrifying, but you have to learn how to work, I think, alone, let alone learn how to do the job
Yeah.
and develop a skill and anything else. You just have to learn how to show up. I think the
Yeah.
biggest problem a lot of young kids have.
You're starting to sound like an old guy.
I know. It happened too quick. I didn't think it
Yeah.
was going to happen. So I'd love to, like, we talked a lot about like the brand challenges and all that. What have you seen just over your career, just of owning your own agency? What have been some of the big challenges, hurdles? Kind of how have you gotten through those as an agency owner?
Shoot, man. Uh, every challenge and hurdle I think that you can face, we've probably have hit at some degree of. Most of the challenges and hurdles I've hit, I have to take full responsibility of. I mean, the hardest stuff, and I don't mean to go like too philosophical on the thing, but the hardest stuff in this life is all the stuff that you just carry in with you. So I have had to grow in those last 20 years into somebody who runs a business, not somebody who knows how to work a camera. Those are two very different things. So, we've hit, it depends on what you want to talk about, but we've hit one giant mistake is we had a client that was way too big as regards the whole portfolio. And so we did great with them and we like crushed it. And we did, I mean, we actually did some of our most proud work. And then come to find out, we worked ourselves out of a job. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh man, this was like 40% of our portfolio. Like that's real dangerous. And so we learned that lesson. We've had the same struggles that every agency has had. We feel the pull of clients currently having high expectations because AI is so instant gratification and why aren't you faster? And my gosh, like what are we talking about? Man, with tools change and people change and we've learned how to love and support and be very kind to our staff as families grow and as there's weddings and, you just kind of start to learn how to put together an agency which is really just a collection of really talented people and so you deal with people that's the challenge.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. The agency in general is the people service-based business. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it is. It's managing people, it's providing a service, and I think a lot of people lose context of that. That I always try to remind, like, our team of is, like, we are here to serve
Yeah.
our clients, and we're in the service-based business. So, it's about showing up, over-delivering on what you said you're gonna deliver
Yeah.
on. Uh well, how has that transition been of like, how do you transition or work on those different hats of like going from being more of the doer, working in your business to working on your business? Like, have you seen that adaptation for yourselves working? And was that challenging for you, or did you find that very natural to do? Yeah, what was your kind of experience with that?
Yeah. I would say like the biggest um I think that a lot of business owners are probably going to resonate with this, but the biggest thing I had to learn is to trust people and to like watch as they're figuring things out that I've already had figured out. And so that's really hard to do. And luckily as a dad, I also have that same challenge now. So it kind of prepped me for fatherhood in a lot of ways because now I'm coaching a 16-year-old son in how to drive and you kind of hold on to the armrest in the truck as he's hurling down the highway. It's about like that. It's like you just hold on and hope for the best. You've told them everything you got. You tell them you just hope they listened. So not to patronize anybody, but it's very similar.
Yeah, let people figure it out, 'cause that's the
Yeah.
only way they can really grow.
Yeah.
What was your found as like your balance between like having very rigid, like, systems to allow people to figure things out? Like, do you have a lot of systems and processes developed over the years, or is it, this is a general guideline of where we're trying to go or what deliverables we have for our clients, and then people have to kind of figure out how to get there? Like, where do you find a balance on that?
Yeah. So what I've learned is, and all of last year, we went through this big concert effort of putting together every one of our playbooks and every one of our scopes of work and standard operating procedures, our SOPs. And the one thing I learned is that they actually breathe life into the agency because people don't have to guess all the time. Like they know what they're doing and they know what they're about. And if they're it eases up the flow of communication. So speed of communication increased. And so there's something about like clarity is kindness that came alive last year. Um, and so that's been kind of awesome. But I've also learned that like not everybody operates very well off of a scope of work or off of a SOP. I work with a lot of creative people. And so just being able to have like tolerance for those kinds of margins, that's also, you just kind of have to build it in. You got to cook it in there with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that's why I find one of the biggest challenges is always really understanding each person's their own individual and has their own individual ways of communicating and learning and adapting different strategies for the different types of people. First, like identifying them and then figuring out what's the right approach to training them and motivating them.
Yeah.
There's generally commonalities, but each person's different. You have to figure out each person. And what you may think going in after hiring versus what you learn in 3 months, 6 months, a year, oftentimes can be two different things. I think generally, from my experience, just from recruiting and hiring, people generally put on somewhat of a front, like they do anytime the camera's on, the attention's on them. People will kind of say and act in a certain way that is different than who they are naturally and normally, which is very common, but you kind of have to learn and develop strategies of how to communicate how to manage, how to motivate throughout their kind of journey
Yeah.
on the job live in real time. And that's a big challenge, at
Yeah.
least I've experienced over the years.
And what's interesting about agency life is that I have to do everything in my power to ensure that my clients never experience anything like that.
Yeah.
They're not signing up for HR problems. They're not signing up
Right.
for, in fact, that's usually one of the bigger benefits is that you don't have HR problems. You have a contract. And so at the end of it, you still have to perform, even if you're having a rough day or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So it's
Absolutely.
interesting like that.
Yeah, it can be a challenge, but yeah, at the end of the day, you have to deliver regardless of what it takes for the client because we are all kind of fighting for contracts and whatnot. What is your guys' kind of could you walk me through kind of your guys' like creative process? Like, how do you look at developing creative, especially right now? We're obviously in this like ultra fragmented media world. And I think one of the possibilities that's kind of helpful in with the AI space is that in this ultra fragmented, you had mentioned it, like everyone's attention seeking, but you still need to cut through the clutter and you have to have a good message. But like, how do you do it everywhere? And I think and I hope that like if you have a good strategy that maybe AI can help amplify and execute faster on things potentially could be one way. But how have you found kind of the creative process in this kind of modern, extremely fragmented media technology landscape we live in today?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So y- the the reality of 2026 and probably from here on um, is the it used to be the case that a brand could get away with doing one or two things and focusing real tight in on a thing, right? So they would have like a really great SEO strategy, and then the calls would keep coming in, right? They just flood in, or they'd have a really great Instagram social media presence or something. And right now, what you're seeing more and more and more of is omni-channel marketing, which is you've got to be everywhere because the buyer, the audience is everywhere. And we live on our phones, we live on our laptops and on our TVs. And so if I saw an ad on the sidebar of a Google search, but also when I was doing something on ChatGPT, it also got recommended to me. If you're an engineering firm or if you're a lawyer or a law firm, you kind of have, you still just have to be everywhere, which is really, really challenging. So the thing that I have seen cut through the clutter is having a really great strategy and a roadmap and a recipe to follow and really gifted people that know how to execute on that strategy. AI and the tools, they come in useful, kind of. They come in more useful in the right hands. There's kind of this, it gets passed around a lot, but it's like, when a client says, "Well, I can have AI do that," you can say, "Yeah, okay, great. I'll put money on it. $100 says we'll race. I'll put my AI against your AI." And this is the big thing. It says, "Well, no, because your AI is trained on it. You know what you're doing still. You still understand what the goal is and how to use the tools. And you're going to even be able to prompt it better. You're going to even be able to like guide it better." Well, an AI ought to be just like supplemental employees. It ought to be like a team of people
Yeah.
who kind of have an understanding of what is going on. Still needs good leadership, still needs good instructions, and it still needs to be brought in line with what the company is doing and what it's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think that central strategist that really knows how to use it and look at it as a leverage point rather than just an execution or a tactic
That's right.
is the big difference in creative. But that's why we're obviously we don't do any creative within my agency, but that's what I find really interesting. It's like how creative agencies are kind of handling the multi-fragmented space because from a paid perspective, we see it all the time of just terms of like the audience isn't on just one channel. There's so many opportunities to reach them and each one kind of can play off and build, but taking one creative and just making it on everywhere doesn't generally work. You have to kind of fit, and what we've seen that works the best is fitting and molding creative to the environment. That's what tends to work the best. And then the other thing that's really crazy is that now is that one, local advertisers can be everywhere for so much for a lot less money than what it was before. which is really interesting, or pretty much any advertiser. But like it's much easier, for example, to be on connected TV now, which we help a lot of advertisers do, versus linear broadcast was a lot more cost prohibitive for a lot of brands throughout the year. So now you
You
can
know
be on
what's crazy?
TV when you couldn't have been before.
You know what's crazy is that, like, as everything you just described, and last year companies spent, I think it was like 30% more of their revenue on advertising. Like, as
Mm,
effective and as easy as it's supposed to be,
yeah,
they still spent more.
more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
think
numbers
that's
came out
because,
this
like
year.
we were talking about earlier, is like everybody's chasing after one buyer, and there's more players in the space now. There's a
Yeah,
lot more people advertising and marketing, so there's more competition.
yes. Yeah, there's
But you
way more
also have things
competition,
like
there's way more noise, all that.
a recent study came out that showed. So there's basically the internet's kind of split up in two. You have the open internet and you have walled gardens, right? So you have open internet, which is like connected TV channels like Hulu and Peacock and Paramount, all of those, and streaming audio, Pandora and Spotify, all the streaming, and then every like web and mobile app. And then you have all the social media platforms, so all your walled gardens, Facebook, Google, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, etc. 60% of the time spent is actually with open internet, TV, rate audio,
Yeah.
display, websites, apps, all that. 40% of time spent is with Facebook, Google, TikTok, etc. But then you look at ad spend, 80% is spent on Facebook, Google, YouTube, TikTok, and only 40% or 20% of budget spent. So you have a 60-40, 60% of time spent, 40% of budgets going to those TV audio channels, and then 20% or 80% of budgets going to the 40% audience. So I
Mhm.
think that's partly why with people are keep spending more, but they're not getting a better return, is just everybody's spending in the same ecosystem and just making Google and
Well, yeah,
Facebook richer, and nobody's gaining more or getting more revenue out of it because everyone's just chasing that final
yeah.
buyer in those
So
environments.
I would say that that goes to support exactly the assertion that there's this dividing thing. What you're really seeing there is they're spending more money on things that are closer to the purchase button. They're closer to the bottom of the funnel. They're not investing in long-term brand development. They're investing in short-term thinking. They're like, "How can I get some sales going today?" Well, they're not gonna buy you off of a commercial, but they might click on you right off of their phone. And so it is closer to the buy button, but to your point, it's not where your effect is going to be. But to get that effect, you kind of have to have a courageous spirit of it to say, well, I'm going to go away from short term thinking and I'm going to actually invest in the brand. And so that would be an encouragement right now is like,
Yeah.
it's a good time to because everybody else is investing in the short term stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like the longer game you can play, the more likely you can win.
Yeah,
But it's that
100%.
balance, like you said at the beginning of the conversation, that brand positioning balance of how
Yeah.
much do you invest in the short term quick fix versus putting in some towards the long term
Yeah, well,
brand
get
building.
a little bit aspirational for a minute and look at what the big boys are doing. The big boys are investing in brand. They're investing in
100%.
the TV and commercials, and they know it's going to win in the long term, but they can survive the
Yep.
short term winter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And they generally I've worked on large campaigns for Kaiser and Ford and Chevron and a bunch of large Fortune 100, 500 brands, and they have more budget than they can spend on Google and
Yeah,
Facebook. That's often why, is that they
yeah,
have so much budget that they have to go beyond those channels because they max out their spend. But I think even individual smaller advertisers I've seen max it out where for every incremental dollar they spend, they get less and less return back. So when they start out, they're getting spend a dollar, they get $3 back. Then it goes to $2 back. Then it goes to $1.50. Then it goes to 125 as they continue to spend more. And it's just the same fact of chasing a small percentage of pool who are ready to buy versus, you know, the other approach.
yeah,
So brand building. I think, yeah, it's a big challenge, but it takes some long-term strategic thinking. And I think that comes with talking and working with smart, creative agencies like what you guys are doing to really have that long-term vision of what this isn't a 1 year or 6 month plan. We want to be there for the next 5 years, decade plus years.
Yeah. Yeah. The 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 onus and responsibility of communication is on the communicator, not on the audience. And so if you're not connecting with your audience, that's on you. And I think that's the investment I would encourage brands to be making right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking ahead 2, 3, 4, 5 years, kind of what keeps you motivated? What are you excited about? Your business, just the industry in general. What are the big things that you're focused on?
That's a great question. I think so. Our mission statement is that we believe that successful businesses are inherently good. They're vehicles by which blessing gets into the earth. And so we push and point brands to deeply connect with their perfect market. So 5 years from now, uh, I am hopefully doing more of that. That's what gets me up in the morning. I love doing that. I think that who knows what's going to happen with AI? Who knows what's going to happen with the market? But ultimately, I think since the beginning of time, as long as people have had goods and services to trade and barter, then they've needed to tell people. And if they need to tell people, that's what we can do. So 5 years from now, man, I hope you and I are having a beer and hanging out. That's what I hope.
Yep. Right on. I'm down for it.
Sure.
Anytime. All right. Last question I always love to ask, but if you could sit down with your younger self, maybe when you're starting out your agency, what would you tell your younger self?
Hmm. I think I would have probably told my younger self to be more aggressive. I went into this kind of just like a bright-eyed, kind of soft kid, and I've learned over the years that whole thing about clarity is kindness. The more you lay things out and stop assuming people will catch them, the better it goes for you. So they do better and you do better. It feels not nice all the time. And if I could have learned that lesson a lot earlier, I think it would be it'd be a lot better for everybody.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. I appreciate you. Anything that you like to share, last closing thoughts, or any way you'd like people to connect with you?
You already gave us a great bump on our 9B podcast. Primarily, we're launching that on YouTube and on LinkedIn. We're also, yeah, we're just doing the thing, man. Yeah, that's
That's
it.
right. Keep doing it. That's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
you can check us out at fideliscreative.com.
Right on. Awesome. Thanks so much, CK. Appreciate you.
Thanks, James.